China's economic crisis is getting worse, with the biggest housing crash in history. Imagine being able to buy a house using only garlic. That was recently possible in China. Chinese real estate sector is currently in disaster, with a real estate bubble threatening to bring the country down. It's primarily the fault of property dealers who took advantage of millions of Chinese people by using dodgy tactics like garlic, pigs, and watermelons. Now the developers are bankrupt and unable to finish construction, leaving thousands stuck with nowhere to dwell. So hello there and welcome back to Finance Insights. Today we return with a phenomenal topic that we are confident you will find really informative. We published a video 2 weeks ago about Chinese banking problem and how it is endangering the entire country's economy. The banking crisis is only half of the tale. The other half of the tale is about real estate. As we said in the last video, some YouTubers are claiming that the CCP may be using bots to leave nasty comments and mass dislikes on videos discussing these type of things in China, presumably to control the narrative and prevent news like this from spreading. So to compensate, could you please drop a fast like before we go on? So yet, President Xi's government has done little to help, triggering nationwide protests and hundreds of people refusing to pay their mortgages. This turmoil could very soon flow over Chinese border and harm us all here at home. With that said, here's a quick rundown of what caused China's real estate crisis in the first place. Family lineage is regarded as holy in China. Ancestor veneration, or the ritual celebration of one's ancestors, is practiced in many sections of the country. But as essential as a person's financial regard for their offspring means that Chinese people place a high value of generational riches. They prefer to invest in assets that will help a family's financial value to be passed on to offspring. There is no better method to accomplish this than through selling real estate. This means that Chinese families are not especially diverse, with the real estate accounting for more than 70% of their wealth. But there is another reason why real estate is so popular. Over the last 2 decades, millions of Chinese people have migrated to cities. In the early 1980s, less than 20% of the Chinese people lived in cities. Today, more than 2/3 do. This has resulted in huge demand for new residential structures. This is one of the reasons Chinese consume 60% of the world's cement supply. Basically, real estate is king in China. Given the magnitude of the country's population, it is not surprising that Chinese real estate market is the largest on the planet. Nevertheless, this also means that there is a fierce competition among property developers in the country. Chinese developers have started getting quite strange in order to sell more apartments. Developers in China frequently give freebies to entice prospective purchasers, such as parking spaces or even free automobiles. One developer even gave those who bought an apartment from them a Mercedes-Benz worth $45,000, and another gave them a free 100 kilograms pig. Some developers in Jiangsu province went even further to attract new business. In a location famed for garlic production, one accepted garlic as a down payment on a new flat. A ploy aimed to entice the region's garlic grower to invest in new real estate. Watermelons, wheat, and barley were also accepted as a deposit from farmers in other farming regions. To cut a long tale short, developers were doing everything they could do to keep money flowing into the property market. As you can guess, they become greedy quickly and began employing more shady practices in order to raise their income. Buying a home off plan is a widespread practice in many countries where an apartment can be secured before it is finished, usually with just a deposit. However, Chinese developers went one step further. Preying on buyers during the real estate boom, pre-sale bargains on new flats were provided with a regular 30% deposit. But there was one major unpleasant catch. Most people in the world do not have to start paying a mortgage until the home is delivered. But this is not a situation in China, where buyers had to start paying the mortgage immediately, often for years while they waited for the property to be built. Despite the risk, this strategy was tremendously effective for developers, who generated more than a third of a total revenue through pre-sales by 2020. Billions of cash were coming into property developers who had yet to do anything. What possibly could go wrong? Almost everything, in fact. So this is where everything goes wrong in Chinese real estate sector, and it all stems from developers taking on more than they can chew. Following the global health crisis in 2020, Chinese economy began to decline, which meant that fewer individuals could afford to buy new homes. This halted the flow of money to developers, who now found it difficult to pay for building projects that they have previously marketed to customers. Many developers couldn't borrow more money since they are already significantly in debt, especially since the Chinese government tightened limitations on how much debt developers could have. Instead of acknowledging they could afford to develop projects they already sold, They hid the facts and devised a modern-day real estate Ponzi scheme to continue selling homes. They sold thousands more apartments to new customers and used the proceeds to construct previously sold building projects, which meant they needed to sell even more properties to afford to develop the apartments they just sold. This got out of control, with developers always selling more to make up for prior inadequacies. However, as Chinese economy slowed, they ran out of fresh purchasers, and the entire house of cards quickly collapsed. As with a Ponzi scheme, someone is always left holding the bag at the end, and in this case, it was hundreds of thousands of Chinese real estate buyers. Building sites across the country came to a halt as developers ran out of money. Evergrande, the country's most notable developer, is thought to have hundreds of thousands of unfinished units, with building completion deadlines not met. Many Chinese families have now found themselves homeless, and as the BBC noted, with no other choice, hundreds of families at a time are moving into incomplete buildings. Anger over the issue has spread throughout China, resulting in major protests and tens of thousands of individuals refusing to pay their mortgages. To build confidence in consumers, the CCP has stepped in to offer a remedy, guaranteeing about $150 billion as a bailout fund in the event that developers go bankrupt. However, certain members of the Chinese government are refusing to assist their compatriots or even acknowledge the situation. Worse, it appears that some are pushing it to continue. Only a few days ago, a Chinese state official in Henan province went viral, urging people to keep buying homes, urging all comrades to take the lead in buying properties, and stressing that if you already own a second property, buy a third, and then buy your fourth. Essentially, he's urging people to continue incurring debt in order to purchase more real estate. That real estate could very well never be built at all. As a result, it looks that Chinese real estate crisis is far from ended. Nobody has a crystal ball, but some believe that things will worsen. And if they do, will it spill over into the West? Unfortunately, the answer is most likely yes, because China has the world's second largest economy. Whatever happens there will almost likely have an impact on the rest of the world. Furthermore, because real estate accounts for nearly a third of the Chinese total GDP, the current situation is particularly dire. Real estate prices in China have already been declined for at least 10 consecutive months, implying that developers are still losing money rather than returning to growth. Because of the paucity of funds, Chinese developers have already failed to make payments to foreign creditors. Payments that are linked to almost every bank in the West. It's quite concerning. The US Fed has previously stated that this might have a negative impact on our economies, potentially leading to higher unemployment if Western companies lose revenue as a result of declined trade with China. To us, Chinese position is a major lesson in debt. Whether it's a first-time house buyer, someone investing in their second property, or real estate developers erecting hundreds of apartments, most people overestimate how much debt they will be able to repay, and then a crisis occurs. Perhaps due to a drop in incomes or a global health crisis, this debt is certainly unable to be repaid, perhaps generating a great deal of individual stress, or, in the case of China, an incident that may have affected billions of people worldwide, which is why we have always been so risk-averse when it comes to debt, avoiding it almost entirely. What were your thoughts on this video? We would love to see your comments below. If you like this video, you might also appreciate the one we published 2 weeks ago about Chinese banking problem. Please like and subscribe to our channel to learn about all things finance and freedom. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next one.